Welcome to Jana Brock's Bunny Talks. I'm Jana, and today I want to answer a question that I get quite frequently. And that question is, when do I know, or how do I know when my rabbits are bonded? In other words, when can I leave them unsupervised? And this is a big question because rabbit bonding varies from set to set. And if you're bonding more than 2 rabbits, you're bringing a third one into an existing bond, or just whatever the situation is. Just bonding is one of those things that is different with different rabbits. It depends on the background. It depends on if you're working with a rabbit that has been aggressive toward humans or toward other animals. Are these kits we're talking about? Hopefully everybody's spayed and neutered if they are at that age where they can be spayed and neutered. Kits, of course, rabbit kits younger than 5 or 6 months old, you're going to have a much easier time bonding them, but they are going to have to be separated before one or the other can get pregnant. If you have a buck and a doe, a male and a female, before they come into that juvenile period where the doe can get pregnant. So there are lots of different situations, lots of variables, and it just depends. But I'm going to do my best to answer this question in as generic way as I can. Again, situations vary, so you have to really pay close attention to the situation you're working with. Do your research, see the other videos on my channel that I have on the same YouTube channel about rabbit bonding. I have a lot of information here. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do hit subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. That lets me know that you want to see more videos about best care practices for your pet rabbit in the future. I want to talk about bonding and how you know when you are getting close to bonding or when the rabbits are bonded and when you should give up. I get a lot of questions about rabbits that an owner has been working on for weeks or months, and the rabbits are still fighting. When they get together, get them to a certain point, they'll lay next to each other, but they still break out in a fight, and fur starts flying, they start biting each other, and you don't ever want to let a fight get so far that they are biting at each other. But one way to know when you've gone through the steps and you've had them close to each other with a gate in between them, they've gotten to know each other through a gate, and you can sit down and safely you get them to the point where you can have them in the same space playing. If they've been okay and no fights have broken out, they haven't tried to fight, they haven't tried to lunge at each other and show aggressive behavior for several days in a row, that is when I usually know that it's safe to keep them in the same enclosure together. However, if you've gone through the bonding process and they're still lunging at each other, they're still showing aggressive behavior, and my rule of thumb is it's not safe to leave them without supervision. And the reason for that is, again, for their own safety and to save you what could be a high vet bill. You could even lose a rabbit, forcing them to live in the same space too early. Another way that you can tell that they're bonded, and some rabbit owners, typically I hear this from rabbit owners that don't do a lot of bonding, like they bonded their set of rabbits, or they acquired a set of rabbits that were already bonded or something. Some rabbit owners, anyway, for whatever reason, think that when you see the rabbits grooming each other on the head, they're completely and totally bonded. You can leave them without supervision. And I would just offer a word of caution. A lot of times when I'm working on a very difficult bond, and if you've followed my channel or followed Love Your Rabbit on social media, or even read my Bunny Conversations book by Jana Brock, you will know that some difficult bonds can take up to 8 months, and they might groom each other within the first month, but it's still not safe to leave them together just because you see them grooming one another's heads. A fight can easily break out. Again, they can get in that dreaded tornado where they're circling, the fur's flying, and they're trying real hard to bite or latch onto the other one, which can cause severe injury to one or both rabbits. Grooming, in my opinion, is not ever the end-all be-all to whether or not your rabbits are ready to be left unsupervised. The best way that you can gauge, from what I've seen, again, different rabbits take longer, some bonds are difficult, and there are cases where some rabbits you just have to give up on them. They're not a good match. This happens sometimes when you're trying to bond 2 bucks, even if they're both neutered, even if they're both healed up. Sometimes bucks just will not get along. Sometimes they're never going to be able to be left unsupervised together. But when they groom each other regularly and they lay down beside one another, they eat meals together, and there's never a problem with any of that over the course of a few days, that's when I consider them bonded and safe, as long as it's not a very difficult situation, meaning you haven't been working on it for 4 or 5 months. I've read some information from other people who have done bonding that says if you can't bond a rabbit within 2 months, give up on them. They're not a good pair. Just toss the idea and get a third rabbit and try it that way. But again, I disagree, just because I have had rabbits take 6 to 8 months to bond, and that is typical of when one or both rabbits has come from a background where they were mistreated by prior owners. It can happen if a domesticated rabbit has been dumped out in the wild or out on a city street corner or whatever. For whatever reason, their owners abandoned them. Usually that happens at about the time that the owner has to get them spayed or neutered, and unfortunately it's still a problem today that people get these animals not doing the research, not understanding their behavior, not understanding that they will come into adulthood, that cute little kit, fluffy bunny stage wears off, and within 4 to 6 months they start spraying and displaying behaviors that means they just need to be neutered or spayed, and then they need to heal. And it completely takes care of 90% of the behavior problems that start showing up when they come into their young adulthood or juvenile phase. And unfortunately, a lot of those rabbits get dumped. And so if a rabbit's been dumped and been left on its own and had to fend for itself and fight off other animals and gets it hides and it gets fearful, and there's all kinds of prey animals around, those rabbits might take a very long time to bond with another rabbit. Again, bonding takes a commitment, and if you work enough with rabbits and you see enough rescues come in, and I've had rescue after rescue after rescue, and in some cases the abuse or neglect they suffered before they got to me was sometimes not intentional but overt enough, and the damage was extensive enough to where it took a while. And I have had rabbits where I've had to work on them for a few months, and for whatever reason I couldn't keep the rabbit for longer than that, so we had to break that bond up. It wasn't going to work. It was clear to me and the other rabbit owner that this was going to be a very, very long-term bond situation. And so sometimes either myself or the rabbit owner decides that it's just not the best time to try to bond that rabbit. So again, the situations vary a lot, but the number one way that I know that rabbits are bonded and I can leave them unsupervised is if we have gone several days without any aggression, any fighting. Not only are they grooming each other on a regular basis, but they're sharing meals. They don't fight over treats. They lay down beside one another, and they just start doing that. One follows the other all around. They're friends. You can tell that they're friends then. I want to encourage any new bonders or anyone that's not really familiar with the bonding process to really do your research on bonding before you start into a process of bonding 2 or more animals together, just because, again, it can cost you a high vet bill, but more importantly, your rabbit could be significantly injured or even, up to and including death. Some rabbits have to be put down simply because their owners allowed them to get into a fight that could not be broken up before significant damage was done. Be careful with bonding. Again, there are a lot of credible, well-researched videos on this channel. All of my work that I provide is not only due to extensive, credible research, but things that I have hands-on experience with, and I care for these animals 24 hours a day. So I hope that helps. As always, be kind to animals, and thank you for caring.